and completed the Strategic Business Economic Program from the University of Asia and the Pacific. His success as an entrepreneur can be traced to healthy dose of patience, out-of-the-box thinking, and deep awareness of his humble beginnings. His out-of-the-box thinking and passion was displayed in the projects he pursued and exhibited even early in life. Our commencement speaker drove jeepneys at an unholy hour of 11:30 p.m. to 1:30 a.m., plying the Navotas Divisoria route when he was a UE student, and he had to run errands for his uncles. He had to babysit and do household chores, and even took a job as a messenger. Working untiringly and a man in a hurry, our distinguished guest passed the CPA board exam right after graduation in 1969. Then he put up his own accounting firm. He later joined a pharmaceutical company, but after learning that it would take him a while to earn a senior position, he decided to take a job in Indonesia, which was offered to him in 1973. In 1984, after a successful venture in Indonesia's wood industry as Executive Vice President of PT Green Timber Jaya from 1977 to 1982, he turned his sights on the booming construction industry projects. And then after that, after 20 years, he went back to the Philippines. He responded to the call of then President Fidel V. Ramos for Filipino businessmen who made good in other lands to come and invest in the Philippines as the country aspired for tiger status. He put up Strategic Alliance Holdings Incorporated, of which he served as Chairman and Chief Executive Officer. As such, he structured a partnership between the Citra Group of Indonesia and the state-owned Philippine National Construction Corporation for the development of the Metro Manila Skyway Project, a $514 million investment. After the Skyway project, the STAR was constructed, and again, this project costed $57 million. He put his knowledge of project financing to good use in putting together these two commercially beneficial infrastructure projects. Our brave-hearted warrior also believes in sponsoring livelihood and infrastructure projects that contribute to local development, and has sent even a number of indigent but promising children of Bayambang to school. Aside from putting up infra projects, our commencement speaker has made his mark in information technology. In fact, his company's IT partnership with the Land Transportation Office brought much relief to drivers who used to wait up to 6 months for their driver's license. That partnership between the LTO and our commencement speaker's Stratcom Corporation was considered as the first major Philippine government computerization project under the Build, Operate, and Transfer law. Our distinguished guest's IT venture brought with it participation in the country's first ever successful automated election through another company of his called Strategic Alliance Holding Incorporated, which ran the August 2008 automated elections in Mindanao. Another partnership that he forged with the government is the computerization of the land registration system. Later on, he set his sights on Guam, noticing that Guam residents seeking medical procedures in the Philippines He founded the Guam Regional Medical City, a partnership with our country's medical city. This Guam hospital is set for completion in 2014. In sum, our distinguished guest is now President and CEO of Stratcom Corporation, Chairman and CEO of Strategic Alliance Holdings Incorporated, and Vice Chairman of Guam Healthcare Development Incorporated. Ladies and gentlemen, I implore you to rise to welcome our distinguished guest and commencement speaker this afternoon, Mr. Cesar T. Campbell.
Please be seated. Thank you very much, Vinny Lisandro. To the distinguished members of the Board of Trustees, to the esteemed President and Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Esther Garcia, to the Chancellors of Manila and Caloocan campuses, the Deans of the different colleges, members of the faculty, parents, guests, friends, and to the graduating students, good afternoon. I am greatly honored to be with you today at your commencement from one of the best universities in the country. From one of the best universities in the country. To all of you graduates, in resplendent graduation robes and togas, my heartfelt congratulations. As I look, okay, clap for yourselves. As I look back at what had transpired in my life, 4 decades after graduation, course from our alma mater, the University of the East, I feel a mixed emotion. I am transported to the time and place when I had my own graduation ceremony, and my thoughts were as clear then as they are now. And so what I intend to do is to achieve a nobler purpose in this commencement address. I want to impart to you the life lessons that I have learned. In so doing, I'm sharing with you my own experiences that you may profit from. When I was a student like you, I drove jeepneys from 11:30 in the evening to 1:30 in the morning. That is flying the Navotas to Divisoria, because I was living with my uncle in Tondo at that time. I had grease all over, smelled of cigarette smoke, and my hands, of course, were busy collecting fares. I learned many things. Siyempre, as a driver, you tend to violate traffic regulations. One time I was apprehended by a policeman in Divisoria, and immediately I told him, "Boss, pasensya na po, wala pa po tayong kita." Ano sabi ng pulis? "Anong pasensya? Wala rito si Aling Pasing. Hindi namin kilala si Aling Pasing." Anyway, pasensya is an overused word we always encounter as we journey through our life. In English, we call it patience. It is the most important word I have learned. In making the grade, in fulfilling a promise to earn my first million before reaching the age of 30. In making a dream for my compatriots a reality. In making good at every step of my career as a tax consultant, as a lawyer, as a property developer in Indonesia, and then IT entrepreneur, project catalyst, venture businessman in the Philippines, and medical center proponent in the island of Guam. This is the arc of my story. As a driver, sabi nila, as a driver, you are also a sweet lover. This is where I learned much, and this is where I honed my street smarts that led conceive of a big business idea. It was such a huge idea that later led to generating revenues amounting to billions of pesos over 10 years. But that, my friends, is getting ahead of the story. My very first job was as a messenger and a clerk in welding industries of the Philippines owned by Mr. Open. And I enjoyed that work. Why? I call it a dignified messenger because I have a driver and a service vehicle because our office was located in Novaliches, so masyadong malayo. My job description then was an accounting clerk in the morning, and I do messengeril work in the afternoon. I was lucky that every 5 o'clock, I'm already at Recto Avenue. 6 months later, I was promoted as accounting clerk. Because of that promotion, I was occasionally late in my classes. Later on, I would meet Mr. Open, and how surprised he was to know that I was involved in a big road project in the country. My next jobs were in a pharmaceutical company. Then I formed my own accounting office, and later on, I was invited to relocate to Indonesia. I arrived in Jakarta, Indonesia on a Maundy Thursday in 1973 with only $50 in my pocket. I kept it in my wrist pocket, baka mawala ko pa. Immediately I was transplanted from the land of my youth to a land of new beginnings, of new horizon, of a new frontier. It is here that I learned my second lesson in life. I spent my first few months in studying the Indonesian rules and regulations in banking, in taxation, including the central bank regulations. After 3 months, I had a baptism of fire. I was invited by the boss to join the first board meeting. Of course, I was nervous. But because of the painstaking preparations that I made, I was so confident at that time. When I was asked whether the company has complied with all its obligations under the laws of Indonesia, I dropped the bombshell. I told the board, the company has totally violated all the taxation and the foreign investment laws in Indonesia. But at the middle of my report, I was cast short by an arrogant Indonesian general who questioned my findings. I saw the glimpse of a sneaker in the Indian military man's demeanor, considering that I was young and had just arrived from Manila. I defended my findings. I cited the provisions of the laws that were violated, and the general keep quiet after that. This is then lesson number 2. Always be prepared. Always be ready and commit your heart to all that is there to know in your line of work. For it is preparation that would open opportunities for you. This lesson would lead me to lesson number 3. Be aware of opportunities that are presented to you. After that board meeting, I looked around and I realized that there were 850 Indonesian certified public accountants or registered public accountants out of a population of 120 million. In 1970, my number was already as a CPA 21,752, and that was in 1970 out of a population of 70 million. That gave me an idea to form an accounting office in Indonesia and engage in taxation services. But being a foreigner, I was not allowed to practice, so I had to partner with an Indonesian registered public accountant, and we called our partnership Dr. Randos Pulumahuni and Company. My first client, of course, was the company who hired me from Manila. And we were able to garner or service 9 Filipino companies out of 13. And one of these companies are the Soriano Group of companies, the Sarmientos, the Valencias, and of course, United Laboratories, because I came from Unilab at that time. But to be able to garner these clients, it was not easy. We were tested and we were able to service 2 tax cases free of charge. As a matter of fact, Congressman Sarmiento compensated me by treating me to a movie. The movie at that time called The Towering Inferno. Hindi nyo na nabutan yan. Later on, I became a lagger, and it is this phase of my life that I learned lesson number 4. Have word of honor. Be true to your word, no matter how difficult it may be. I was enticed to become a partner in a logging venture by a Filipino compatriot who turned out not to have the financial muscle to pursue the venture. Early on, the Indonesian official who owned the logging concession told me about the shenanigans of this kababayan, but I did not listen. I told them he has the capacity. I still persisted in getting the necessary license for the business. Here I put on my resources to keep the company afloat and buy new logging equipment, as failure to do so would have cost me my word of honor. Later on, our partnership soured. My partner went back to the Philippines and he practically lost everything. Meanwhile, my career was propelled by my strong network in business. Back in 1987, on my way to Jakarta Airport, as I was going back to the Philippines, I saw for myself what Indonesia inaugurated, an ambitious multi-level skyway project. And I was a bit disheartened that we didn't have that kind of infrastructure. I asked myself, what if the Philippines adopted this kind of infrastructure program? I wrestled with the thought as I became a witness to the explosive infrastructure growth in Indonesia. The thought consumed me and brought at times my musings as a driver when I was a student. It was a patient wait. 11 years later, I was given the opportunity to pursue the $514 million Metro Manila Skyway project. But this project became a reality as a happy mix of my earlier days as a businessman with word of honor, my enduring patience, and my desire to see for myself that what I see in Indonesia would also become a reality in the land of my birth. This project, the first infrastructure under the public-private partnership with the government, arose again because of word of honor. It was another detour for my journey, a pleasant surprise, I would say. And it started when I was able to get the attention of the daughter of no less than the President of Indonesia, because I committed to bringing in Filipino youth to the ASEAN Youth Congress, which the daughter of the President presides upon. Before this, the Philippine government declined the overtures of Indonesia for it to send a delegation to the Asian Youth Congress, possibly due to budget constraints. And I learned later that Suharto's daughter was disheartened. To her mind, the Youth Congress would not be a successful ASEAN unity event without a delegation from the Philippines. Learning about this, I contacted my province mate from Pangasinan to provide the delegates, and of course, for me, footing the tab. The presence of the 50 Filipino youths saved the day for Indonesia, as Suharto's daughter was enthralled by their participation, waving the Filipino flags amidst the thumping of drums, the sheer pitch of the trumpets, and the march in unison of all the delegates. It is this word of honor that would lead to what has become a tall diplomacy, when I was able to convince the Chitra Group to invest in the Philippines and build the Metro Manila Skyway at that time. The Metro Manila Skyway was just a figment of my imagination back in 1987. When the Skyway was still undergoing construction, I learned the Land Transportation Office was offering to bid out the computerization of its agency. It did occur to me that this would be like a toll road, only it is an electronic tollway. So I joined the bidding and I won the project. I think I won this project because of God Almighty. You know, when you bid for major government projects, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of preparation. It's like taking your board examination in the CPA. And you have to submit this early in the morning on the following Monday, so you have to work 1 week, day and night. So we were able to complete our bid document at around 4 o'clock in the morning. And after sealing it, I told my people, now you can submit the bid document. So I left my office. I realized the time was around 5:30. So I went directly to church, St. Francis. It was my birthday on that day. What was my prayer? Sabi ko, Lord, baka pwede, birthday present ko na lang to, yung project na to. My prayers were answered. That led to the establishment of Stratcom Corporation, a build-own-operate public-private partnership that now earns for governments a substantial sum, enough to make the LTO the third largest revenue agency in the Philippines because of computerization. Stratcom as a business venture led me to land registration systems, an e-title project that would do away with fake land titles, the bane of businessmen and citizens alike. This venture is a joint project with an Indian infrastructure leasing and financial services. These two companies are my way of giving back to my roots, and that is something that you should always take to heart. I have tried to distill for you 4 decades of my life's journey with appropriate lessons to be learned, for I always believe that one should always go back to his roots. I have given you snapshots of my career in business, and I bumped into opportunities that proved worthy for me and my family. Were it not for the University of the East, I would not have laid bare my soul to you. Were it not for the University of the East, I would not have laid bare my soul to you. But this is my way of giving back, of paying it forward, so that other graduates may personally benefit from the lessons that I have learned. The undercurrents of the lessons that brought me to where I am now consists of 3 words I would like you to remember. It is these 3 words that have guided me in my journey. And it is a journey like no other, filled with stories of lessons learned, of money earned, of friends here and abroad who supported you, of giving back, of dreaming, of sustaining a vision. These 3 words to remember are patience, patience, and a lot of patience. Again, to the graduates, congratulations, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much, Sir Cesar T. Kimbal. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, let us now listen to the UE Chorale for the rendition of a musical repertoire.
This is the time when the momentum and the moment are in rhyme. Give me this moment.